was never sober.
Hello, it's Electra Snow, and I'm pretty sure she goes without needing an introduction. You've already been introduced to Puddin', so it's fitting that we do her as well. To start, I'm prepping my skin with BenNye's porefesional to fill in any lines and small little imperfections that I have in my skin. Then, as you see in every single one of my drag transformations, I'm using Max Factor Pan Stick in shade 12 as my base skin tone colour. It's then time to contour the face, and for this I'm using a Dermacolour Camouflage Cream in the shade D11, and I'm using that to carve in new cheekbones, new jawline, and just to make my forehead a little bit smaller, so I'm contouring to feminise my face. Once I have that darker cream where I want it, I'm just going in with the Beauty Blender, and I'm using that to buff it in and blend it in with the rest of my skin. And then to highlight, I'm using MAC's Full Coverage Foundation in white. And I'm just using the warmth of my fingers to melt that into the base colour to get a nice blended highlight. Now to set that non-surgical facelift into place, I'm using BenNye's loose powder, and this is in translucent. I'm also using that same powder on my face to cook, and I'm taking that underneath of the new cheekbones that we've carved in, around underneath under my eyes and in the middle of my forehead. I wanted my version of Harley Quinn to be slightly more drag than other people's may be because, well, it is me, and I'm using a lot of cooking here because it's pretty much a very good drag technique to bring out the highlights of the face. And although in this instance I'm not going to be using the underneath of my eye area cooking for catching loose powder, that was what you would use it for if you was using very dark shadows or glitter, because it would stop anything from going onto your foundation and ruining it if you're doing your eye makeup after you've done your base. Now I'm drawing on my eyebrows, and for this I'm using a matte Inglot brown eyeshadow in the shade 327. These brows are a little bit different to what I would normally draw. I wanted to try and match them to be a little bit more like Margot Robbie's are in the film. They're slightly more pointed than I would do, and they're a little bit more triangular on the tail of the brow. You can see because I haven't got eyebrows, when I am drawing them on, I kind of make weird faces and step back from the mirror and have a look at where they are on my face, because as you scrunch your face and look back at it, it's better to get a real idea of how they're sitting so you can get them as even as possible. Because brows are very mobile on your face unless you've had a little bit of work freezing them, and although they say that brows should be sisters and not twins, I kind of disagree with that. I also took a slightly darker matte brown shadow, and this is Inglot's 329, and I used that on an angle brush to draw small little lines mimicking hairs in my eyebrows. For the pink eye eyeshadow, I actually used a pink blush, and this is Sleek's Trio, and this is in the shade Pink Ice. I took that, concentrating most of the colour on the outer portions of my eye and through the crease, and then I just used the remaining product on the brush to blur that across the rest of my eyelid. This doesn't have to be completely 100% fully blended and neat, because when we're going in with the glitter tears, you want it to look a little bit like she's cried some of this off. For the blue eye side, I'm using another Inglot shadow, and this is in the shade 322. Again, focusing most of that product on the outer corner and through the crease, and just using what's remaining on the brush to blur it across the eye. For brow highlight, I'm using MAC's Studio Fix powder in Shivering White, and I'm applying it on my brow bone, and I'm also using it to blend in the pink and the blue. And you see I go over with some more with the same product that's on the brush from using the pink and using the blue, and I use that just to make sure that there's a nice blend between the white and the pink and the blue colour. Now I'm taking a small amount of black, and I'm using that to darken up the crease, and this is another Inglot shadow in the shade 391. I am only taking a very small amount of this black though on the eyes through both creases, because I just want to give them a little bit more depth and definition, because we're going to be going in with a lot of glitter. I'm just taking all that cooking off now with a fluffy brush, and that's the eyes pretty much complete with the base colours, and now it's onto the part you've probably all been waiting for, the glitter. I'm using quite a few different glitters for this look. 2 of them are from Stargazer, a few of them are craft glitters, and they're the ones that won't be going anywhere near my eyes itself, they're just going down for the tears. But if I do know the brands and have the shade numbers for the ones I'm using, they'll all be down in the products list below. For the glitter that I'm applying to the eyelids themselves, I'm adhering that with Duo, and I'm just letting that dry down a little bit before I press it in. On the outer parts of the eye, I'm using a slightly darker non-iridescent glitter to add a little bit more depth. And then through the centre towards the tear duct, I'm using a slightly lighter iridescent glitter to bring a little bit more shine to the eye. And these are of course in the same corresponding colours for each eye. With the same brushes that we used for the eyes, I'm taking the remaining product and I'm using that to smudge kind of like blurred lines underneath of my eyes. This doesn't have to follow any pattern, you want to kind of keep it as organic as natural as possible because there wouldn't form any natural shapes or patterns if this was happening as she was crying. I'm just applying the corresponding colour to each eye, smudging the product out with the brush and my fingers, blurring it and making it look as natural as possible. You just want to build up these smudge lines until you're happy with them because these will be the base kind of colours shining through underneath of the glitter we're about to apply. I felt that the lower eyelid looked a little bit too bare, so I just take the same colours that I used on the top on an angled brush and I use that to kind of smudge it and move it around underneath my lower eyelid. I also took whatever was left on the brush to make squiggle lines down the cheeks to give the effect of there was more product falling in those areas. I took the lower powder off from underneath my cheekbones that was cooking, and I went in to intensify my contour with a sleek trio palette in the shade medium. I then took MAC Studio Fix powder in the shade NC15, and I used that to kind of like lighten up the area underneath my cheekbones again because I wanted to keep this contour quite draggy. But if you was recreating this look for Halloween, you can just do your normal contour and highlight. You can miss this step out entirely, you don't have to do the draggy look like I'm doing here. For my lip colour, I'm using a red BarryM lip liner and I'm applying that around the perimeter of my lips to get the shape that I want, and then I'm just using it to fill them in entirely. Now the lips are complete, I'm moving on to contour my nose, and I'm using that same sleek trio palette, the exact same one that I used to contour the rest of my face. I'm just taking that on a fan brush this time, and I'm using that to take down both sides of my nose to give a little nice contour there, and then I'm also using a slightly smaller, finer brush to attach that contour up to my brow bone. Then I'm using a fluffier brush with no product on it to blur those lines out into the skin. Even though this is a draggy nose contour, I want to try and make it look natural-ish. Taking that Shivering White by MAC again, I'm using that to apply to the centre area that we didn't contour to bring out the highlight. And I'm also taking that up into my forehead as well, connecting the line together. And now it's on to those glitter tears. To attach the glitter to my face, unlike I would on my eyelid, which is very mobile and moves around a lot, for that, as you've seen, I would use Duo adhesive. But for my cheeks and the tears, to give them kind of like a glossy appearance, and so that it wasn't so sticky with Duo, I'm actually using a clear gloss, and I'm applying that to the areas that I want it with a very fine detailer brush, and then I'm basically just going in and applying the glitter in over the top of that. With this, there is no real technique or pattern to follow. You basically just want to start with one shade of the glitter and apply it randomly over the eye in certain lines. For this one, I started off with a darker colour and I applied that following the same lines that I drew on with the shadow before, and used a dark chunky glitter for this. This is just a craft glitter, so it's not going anywhere near my actual eyelids itself. And then I'm just taking a slightly lighter iridescent one and applying that in between. And then I'm also taking a very, very chunky glitter, which is kind of like iridescent beady kind of pieces, and I'm applying that throughout it just in random places as well to give a nice organic look, because if these were tears themselves, they wouldn't really be in any way, shape or form, they'd just be randomly falling down the face. Now on camera you can't really see this effect as it actually does look in real life. I do try and change it here a little bit in edit so you can see a little bit more of the detail, but in real life, and if you was in a dim lit room, this looks really, really effective. It just looks like you are actually crying these really nice kind of glittery tears, and it looks really kind of ethereal and a weird creepy thing as well. Just repeat the same process on both eyes. You can see I'm doing the same kind of thing with the pink, using a light colour, a darker colour, some of different grades and different chunky sizes. You just want to keep building up the layers of glitter until you're happy with the way that it looks. Once I've got the tears how I like them, I'm just doing the same thing as I would when I finish off any normal eye makeup. I'm using an eyeliner pencil to go around my waterline, top and bottom. I'm using mascara, and I'm also applying 2 pairs of wispy lashes. These ones are off of eBay and they come in a set of 5. They're kind of new ones that I've found, and they are really effective and nice long fluttery eyelashes. Oh, and it's also doing the heart beauty spot that she has tattooed on her cheek, and tattooing Rotten on the jawline. These are usually always on her pink side if you look at the references from the film and photos, but I have seen it on other sides as well. Just do it on the side that you like the most, but it is usually on the pink. And it's onto the hair. Now for this, I actually decided to use 2 wigs, and I applied them both to one side of my head and one to the other. These were both just ordinary blonde wigs, but to achieve the colours on the ends, I bought coloured hairspray, spraying 1 blue and 1 pink. And the reasons for why I chose to wear 2 wigs is because of this. A, because I wanted to be in keeping with making this more of a drag Harley Quinn, and by doing that it makes the hair much bigger and fuller, and it gives it a nice kind of bouffanted effect at the top. And B, it was £60 to buy a lace front wig corresponding to Harley Quinn's hair from the film, because people are bumping the prices up for Halloween. And for a wig that I would probably only wear once because it's typecast to her, I wanted to show you another method of creating her hair that can be a little bit cheaper to achieve. It's pretty simple to apply 2 wigs to the head. You just want to take one from the left side, apply it over your ear, and then pin it in at the back and the front, and then take another one from the right hand side, pulling it over the top of that wig ever so slightly, and pinning the line at the top into the other wig itself. Taking that over the ear again, and then applying pins at the back and in the front, and just blending those layers in at the top to make it look like it's all one hair piece. If you would like to see another video on how to apply hair pieces, on how I achieve applying 2 wigs, 3 wigs, and sometimes even more to the head, please let me know down in the comments below. But yeah guys, I really hope you enjoyed this Harley Quinn Halloween transformation. If you do decide to recreate this for Halloween, please make sure you post photos onto my social media. All of the links are down in the description below. All the products I used in this video are also down there as well. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already, and until next time, bye bye.